I'm Joyce Hornady. You might say accuracy is my business. I make bullets.
You are listening to the Hornady Podcast.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Hornady Podcast. I'm your host, Seth Swerzik. Thanks for tuning in this week. Beside me, to my right, veteran of the show, co-host, Preston Lentfer, marketeer. Thanks for coming on, Preston.
You're welcome. I don't know if I'm a co-host, but I've been on a few times.
It feels like a co-host, and also, I'm going to say co-guide, if you will, for what we're talking about in this upcoming podcast.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Across the table from us, two guys we've gotten to know pretty well here over the last week or so. Directly in front of me, Thomas Nissen, freelance outdoor writer. And then beside him, Kjær Knudsen.
Yes.
He is a outdoor shooting personality and journalist. You guys obviously very popular in Europe and in UK, and you've done some breathtaking and quite amazing hunting adventures, which is just awesome to see. I know Jens, leading up to this hunt that we did with them, had sent several articles over, and you want to tell me what? Whoa, backdrop's beautiful. So with that, guys, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thanks for coming all the way from Denmark.
Just a pleasure. It's just a pleasure.
I'm sure your travels were nothing but a pleasure.
Yeah. How long did it take? How many hours?
It took 30 hours and a lot of struggles with luggage and
So
you guys still don't have your luggage?
Not yet. No, we'll get it tomorrow when we go home.
Nearly a week, no luggage.
So to set the stage for this podcast, you guys obviously do a bunch of outdoor writing, and you're on YouTube with The Shooting Show, and you're on the MOTV, so you've got a TV show there. Well, Hornady has a small lease that is whitetail hunting in southwestern Nebraska, and we use that lease to help create content, so outdoor writers and TV shows and such, we can have them out and just have a good time in Nebraska hunting whitetail. It's just an amazing time. So had you guys out here to do that. So you flew 30 hours from Denmark. It's opening morning, supposed to be single-digit temperatures, and your luggage doesn't show up. So we're off to a good start right out of the gate. Yeah. Well, I guess we should preface that. Your flight was delayed from Minneapolis to Omaha. So you missed out on an evening hunt, which wasn't the end of the world, but...
well, it wasn't supposed to take 30 hours, right? No. Should have been less than that.
Yeah, 6 hours delayed our flight was.
Okay. Yeah. But still a full day of travel.
Yeah, full day of travel. So coming up into that, with events like that happening, how did that make you guys feel? Uneasy, uncertain, or you guys are obviously well-traveled, or is it you just kind of roll with it?
We kind of roll with it. You cannot do anything when it happens, so...
Why get worked up?
And as soon as you get out of the airport, you sit in the truck, you meet some... All over the world, you meet nice guys and friendly people. Sit in the truck, you're on the way to the next adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Then you don't mind. You don't even think about the trip.
Awesome.
No, so if the flight is easy, you don't think about it. If it's hard, you don't think about it. You are just on the way to new adventures.
That's a good way to put it. That's good perspective.
That's a good mindset.
Yeah. And we knew that we have a cabeles on the way to the hunting area, so we could supply ourselves with the clothing for the cold weather.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Because you told us to bring warm clothing, and it stayed in the airport or somewhere in the air. So
who knows where it actually came from?
Yeah.
Well, you guys. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but your insurance, travel insurance, came in clutch to get you some warm clothing.
Yeah, we have good insurance, so.
It's worth it to have good insurance on trips like this where you need it.
Yeah.
And,
the Cabela's in La Vista is a relatively new Cabela's, and it's a big store.
Big store.
Anything you could possibly want is probably in there.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the weather wasn't going to be 50 degrees where you need a light jacket, and you'd be fine. You needed base layers and mid layers and insulation layers and shells.
Well, I think one of the mornings was 4 or 5 degrees.
Yeah. And that's without the wind chill. So below zero for sure.
Yeah. I didn't buy on the insurance. We can buy necessary stuff. So I thought, okay, my boots will come tomorrow because we were promised the luggage would come next day. And then the first night was in the in the stand with only sneakers on and small socks. So
Well, luckily we got that sorted out.
Yeah.
There was a collective. You guys bought some clothing. You know, obviously we had some clothing here, and it paid off because it was cold, but there was some good hunting going on.
Yes.
Yeah, luckily a few of the blinds are totally enclosed with heaters.
Yeah.
Some of them were open air. So we made decisions accordingly.
Yeah. Well, the mornings it was hard to go away from a heater, especially when you didn't have all the clothing that you wanted. And so to paint the picture for the listener, this property is right on the Republican River. And as far as hunting deer goes, that is one of the meccas, you know, and that Republican River goes down into Kansas, and I've killed deer on the Republican in Kansas, and it's just a wonderful river system that is home to a bunch of great wildlife, but deer specifically. So we don't have a ton of land down there that we operate in, just a little over 800 acres. But I'll tell you what, that's enough when the rut is on. The deer are just running crazy. So we take for granted, Preston and I, hunting whitetail deer because we grew up doing it. And from the moment we were 10 or 11 years old, we were hunting deer. So coming all the way from Denmark, what was your deer hunting experience beforehand? And what did you expect coming into the hunt versus your actual experience once it happened?
Yeah, but the first thing I expected was that we would sit with small fields in a forest area, bush area. I tried that in Alabama. So, but this is much more open area, and then you can see. So this forest area along the river is quite open, so you can see. And I saw much more game and deer that I was thinking about seeing, and it was very nice. We saw when we were out. We saw deer moving all the time, nearly. It's a little bit different from we hunt a lot of roe deer in Europe, and they go out and eat at normally in the same place, and then they go in again in the thick bush and go out and eat for every 3 hours. And it's like the deer here, they just move all the time. They walk, eat, walk, eat, walk, eat, walk. And so that was a nice experience, and nice to see turkey and the bird life at the river was very, very, very nice.
Yeah, you hear
the bald eagles too.
Yeah, bald eagles. You hear the Canadian geese traveling around, and and for me also that it was so the farmland is the color is yellow, I think, in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
This time of year it is.
Yeah, I have thought also more green fields and
in August things are green. The fields are green. But
not now.
It seems kind of barren after our main crops are gone. Yeah.
So, Thomas, this was your first deer hunt as a whole. Now, Jens, you said you'd hunted deer in Alabama prior.
Yeah.
So, did this align with what you thought it would be, or were you similar in thinking to Jens?
Yeah, it's similar as Jens. I thought we would be sitting in a. I thought actually I would sit in a kind of high, like a stool, or just outside, not in a blind or in a high seat like that. We were in the tower. So I thought we would sit in a kind of a stool or a ladder, and then have a field in front of me, and dense forest around, and then the whitetails will come out and they will start to eat, and I could turn on my video and I could shoot it when I was ready. But they were just on the move all the time, so it was much different then.
We're kind of on the backside of the rut when we guys were hunting. So deer are constantly moving. Does are moving away from bucks. Bucks are looking for the does. So they are constantly on the move. And the southeast, heavy wooded areas, and sometimes they'll just clear out a spot and they'll throw in a food plot, and you sit on the edge of it and you hope deer come by and eat. But right now, their main concern was not really eating; it was breeding.
You could see, it was.
It's a unique time to be in the woods because obviously the bucks are cruising, but you're looking for the bucks. But what you're not necessarily looking for is the does. And I'll tell you what, the does are everywhere. So they'll bed down for a little bit, and then they're back up on their feet. And from the moment we dropped you guys off at a stand, if you could see, it is realistic that you could see deer up until it was dark. And you couldn't see, or we come to get you out of the stand. So that's just a nice time to be in the woods. And like you guys had mentioned, the turkey, the bald eagles, the geese, the other, there's pheasants down there and quail, and it's just an awesome place. So the town that we were closest to is about 400 people. very, very small town, very typical small town Nebraska. And, there's one motel in town, and it's kind of an old school single-story motel. It's been recently renovated, so it's, fine for what it is. But the town of 400 people, and then the town next to that is less than 200, and there's a little cafe. And tell us a little bit, not necessarily about the hunt, but about your experience in rural Nebraska, because it doesn't get more stereotypical Nebraska than where we were. You have primarily agriculture. That's generally what everybody's involved in. And then the towns are really small and relatively spread out. So from an experience standpoint, coming from Denmark, what was that like for you guys?
For me, it was just like I think American is, and it's nearly like to see in a film. For us to see in Europe and in Denmark, and it was very, very a nice experience to see how that little community meet in the restaurants and full of happy people and speaking to each other and give each other a hook, and they know each other, and it was like a little world, that little city there, and looks like they take care of each other and so on. So that was that's very, very nice to see. We don't have that kind of we are too many people in where I live, so it was very unpersonal.
This really, and everybody knows everybody in small towns.
Yeah, and you come there and big trucks up in front of the motel, just like you see them in Hollywood movies, and
the big lifted trucks with the big tires.
And then you have big trucks coming with cargo through, looking different than they do in Europe, and you have the big trains, Midwestern trains, I think. Train coming, and you can hear them also in the night, the trains coming. And we had the Trump store in the city. It was also fun to see.
Yeah, in this town there's still a standing Trump store that has, and we joked about this on the way, but there was a center pivot with a big flagpole on it that has a certain political sayings on there.
In support of Trump.
Yeah, a flag in support of Trump on there, and that's pretty common in this neck of the woods. Not to make this political at all, but there's a store dedicated to selling stuff like this on the main street of this little town.
I've never seen that before, so that was new for me.
The store,
So I've never noticed it. It's probably been there, but
I try not to do this on any podcast, but on occasion, I get distracted by food. Think back in our antelope podcast. That was pizza professionally seasoned by seasoned professionals. It was the best Hawaiian pizza I've ever had. Well, breakfast was pretty modest. In the mornings, these guys would wake up at 5 a.m., and I had some sausage, egg, and cheese croissants that I'd warm up in the microwave, and I'd have coffee going and honey buns laid out. And so breakfast was pretty modest. And lunch, depending on how the hunting was going, may have just been snack food, but we'd always go to the same little town cafe that serves, well, it's the only restaurant in town, so you're kind of limited. And I'd ask these guys on Saturday morning if they'd ever had a prime rib, and I tried to explain it well, but they had not had a prime rib dinner, and they're served differently kind of throughout the country with different spices and different seasonings, but generally it's the same. So to be tangential to the hunting podcast, how was your first prime rib experience?
A soft experience.
It
was tender meat, but it was also different. I thought it would be. You had explained what it was. Maybe my English is not good enough. Maybe I'm not clever enough. But I had thought it was some kind of spare ribs.
Yeah, well, it's got rib in the name.
But then there came what I would say is like a very tender kind of steak.
Yeah.
I think it was good.
Yeah, it was
really good.
We don't have we don't eat so much big portion of meat in where we come from, but when I travel around, you see in the world, it's in some places you eat big portion of meat, especially places where you
produce the Midwest.
When you produce, where you have cattle for meat, we only have near milk cattle in Denmark. So it's nice, and it tastes also much better here.
Really?
Good.
That is good. And one of the reasons I bring that up is you guys have obviously traveled all over the world in your pursuits, and so you've eaten food and you've had these dining and cultural experiences all over the world. And being here in small town Nebraska is virtually identical to small town every other state in the Great Plains in the Midwest, and gosh, even some of the southern portions of Canada and everything. It's very, very similar, and it's a cultural experience that, again, we gloss over because it's just how we were raised. It's just how it is. And I don't know, a big prime rib dinner, and you got an 18-ounce prime rib and the au jus, and you just want to drink it like it's salty water. And
it's taking me back to my youth, and I'd have a queen-size prime rib from Betty's Cafe every Saturday, almost darn near. But it was great.
Yeah, well, and that's a unique cafe because the owner of the cafe also raises the beef, and then he's able to serve that. So that's pretty cool. And again, tangential to the hunting, but still a neat experience.
We were hunting. This is a hunting podcast.
So let's focus on the hunting. So you guys, we got through the luggage. You don't have any. You guys get some stuff bought at Cabela's. We had some extra clothing items, puffy layers and stuff. So you get out there for your first, you get to hunt the evening, and walk us through the first evening and then how that changed maybe your thought process going into that next full day of hunting.
Especially the cold. That was the first experience. I felt that I need more clothes. For the morning, because it was warmer at night, but still cold.
Yeah.
And,
first couple of days was high in the 30s.
And if you freeze when you sit hunting, you lose concentration. I do. So I need to be comfort with my temperature. I'm not so good when it's very cold and I'm freezing. And if I'm going to shoot, I don't like to shoot when I'm shaking a little bit of the cold. So
you want to be able to feel your finger too.
Yeah, it was. But of course, all the excitement to be a new place warmed me up. But I knew I had to have during the night. We had to find some clothing, and we did.
Yeah,
and we did. So
seeing the game, you hunted. I think the CRP field, or was it Redgate?
CRP and Redgate.
Okay, so sitting in areas. So Jens, you were sitting in the CRP field, which is CRP, so you can see hundreds of yards, and that's surrounded by some ag fields, but also some pretty dense timber. So. Seen a lot of deer movement that first night?
Oh yeah. I saw 15 females and 3-4 different young bucks.
Okay.
And all of them were moving. There were in that area. There was still some rutting.
Oh, that's fun to watch.
And one buck came and female came running next to my high seat, and the female had the tongue out of the mouth because running so much,
panting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so I had something to look at all the time. There was deer out all the time. So
that's a good evening.
Yeah, that's a very good evening.
Thomas, you were sitting in a stand now a little bit more compact. There was a good stand of trees pretty much all the way around you. What was your first evening like?
My first evening, when I went to the stand, the first thing I saw was a whitetail in the
distance,
in the green bushes there. So I was already alert when I came up. And if there was females, there might be a buck.
Mm-hmm.
So I was ready. So I didn't think much about the cold also because I had the heater and the heater on, and
your tennis shoes.
I only have tennis shoes on, but I'm quite good at handling with heat, with the cold. So that was not a problem. And I was very, very alert to see if a buck would come.
And you did see a buck the first night, right?
I didn't. As I recall, I only saw a small buck the first night.
Small buck, yeah.
And then I saw some females. I have the turkeys coming right by, a lot of turkeys.
Yeah.
And that's quite fun. We don't have them in Europe, so that's a very interesting bird to see.
Amazing. And they were pretty noisy, right?
Oh,
yeah. But I would say after the evening hunt, when we left there and I knew I was going hunting next morning, I was excited because I thought I will see a buck.
Yeah.
So it might happen for me that.
Well, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah,
it really is when you're out there, especially on that river system. Then there's the river, there's trees, there's ag, and they're going to be crisscrossing all over back and forth in there. So, unfortunately, the hunting was a little on the slower side by what I'm going to call the standards of that area. Still seeing plenty of deer, but it did take a couple days to get something to line up for you. So, Thomas, you were the first one to connect on a deer, and from what I recall on the hunt, you were able to spot him the night before, and he's kind of, maybe he's big enough, maybe he's not, and you took some really good photos of him.
Yeah.
And then walk us through how that first night went and then what happened that next morning.
I there came some females, and then suddenly I saw a buck, and he had antlers, and I thought it was nice antlers. But when it's a new species, it's really hard to judge them. So I took a picture of the buck because he was close to the seed, and we had still some days left. And I sent the picture on our WhatsApp group, asking Seth if is it big enough?
Yeah.
and he disappeared for me, and then I got the message that he was not.
Well,
he was
he's in the gray area, and certainly.
So I could wait.
Yeah, you could wait if you shot him. I think the way I put it was, if you shoot that deer, I'd be plumb happy for you. But if you hunt, more days, there's a good chance you'll see something probably a little bit bigger.
Yeah, and he was gone at that time, so. But it didn't.
Then you had all the time to study the photo too.
Yes.
You thought maybe I messed up.
Yeah. When I came home, I looked at the pictures, and I should have shot him.
Well, so how did that go the next day then?
Yeah.
Next morning?
Then I had a bad sleep because I was thinking about it. And next morning I came out. I think I saw a female. It was very cold out there. It was an open stand.
Mm-hmm.
I saw one female coming. Not much happened, and suddenly that buck, he came to the right. And I thought, okay, I will not
make the same mistake.
No. If I get the chance, I will shoot. And he came out. I was ready. He noticed something, looked up at me, and
got him.
Bam.
6.5 Creedmoor.
Yes.
And that's the first animal you shot with the 6.5 Creedmoor?
Yes.
And it did the trick. 143 ELDXs. That's a gun that you guys had borrowed just so you didn't have to travel with your firearm. So that gun shot great. Ruger M77. And not to steal your story, but when we cleaned that thing, he split that hard in half.
Yeah.
He couldn't have been a more perfect shot.
Yeah.
I've seen a few gut piles in my day, and I've not seen a heart that mangled, quite honestly.
No.
It was
impressive.
Good job, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So to interject into that story, one thing that I don't know why I've always had an affinity to the stars, but we were at his stand in the morning and it was dark out, and I said, "That's Orion the Hunter, the constellation. That'll be good luck."
Yeah.
And rolled out. And sure enough, it wasn't very long after the sun came up that Orion the Hunter faded in the sky and the deer presented himself.
And that morning it was really cold.
It was 4 degrees.
Until that bullet had split that hard.
Yeah.
Then everything was warm.
Everything was fine for a while.
So also what I thought was really nice was the night prior, he sent that picture and said, "What do you think about this deer?" And he was an okay 4x4 on 4-point on one side, but his other side had been broken in deer fight this time of year. So I said, I think you might see something bigger if you hunt longer, but it's not a bad deer. If you're happy, shoot him for sure. Well, then the next morning, I got a message in my WhatsApp that said, "Same deer, different picture." And I'm thinking, the deer's out there, and he's just taking photos of it. And I open it up, and it was
He's on the ground.
He was on the ground. That was a good move. Put a smile on my face. I went from he's seeing deer this morning to hey deer down, we gotta get out there. That's exciting, and I'm glad we could be a part of your first whitetail deer experience. And they're a magnificent animal. They really are, and certainly it varies wherever you are in the country. But here, where we're at, a mature 3.5-year-old buck can easily weigh 225 to 250 pounds, and people don't necessarily appreciate the sheer size of these animals. And obviously they're smaller in the South, and they're bigger in Canada, and mule deer get larger bodies. But it is not uncommon to shoot 250-pound whitetail deer here that are 3.5 years old, and they just look strong and healthy, and they're cool animals.
Yeah.
So shifting to Jens. So Jens, you got to see Thomas be successful. So then he got to film for you and walk us through how your hunt went where you were successful.
Yeah, I was lucky that Thomas shot one before me, because then he could I could have his company. It's always a pleasure to have him when I sit in a high seat or when we hunt together.
Mm-hmm.
So so we went out to an open stand, and the weather was we think this is the night, and we actually we hearing 2 or 3 shots far away, so we think, they are moving tonight, the bucks. And first a little buck came in, and that I have seen before. Scrubbing, it's what you say in English.
He's making a rub.
Rub there, yeah.
Yep.
And I filmed it, but suddenly this buck came in when we were talking, and Thomas he turned on the camera, and we were filming it, and I tried to stop it. But it will not stop. So suddenly, so in the last second, Thomas he said, "Wow, wow."
I just wanted it to happen because my camera was on it.
Yeah,
so I didn't want it to pass.
Yeah. So it stopped, and for the first time I fired a 7mm PRC. So the hit was good, and it ran 30 meters and roll and dead. Yeah.
Yeah. Another perfect heart shot too.
Yeah. The top of the
took the top.
Yeah, took the top of the heart. So that was
and that was cool. I traced the blood trail back on that one, and that was kind of fun to do because growing up being an archery hunter, I love blood trailing. I don't know why.
Sure, I also do. I always try to find that first. Yeah. I know it's lying there, but I like to find and see how the bullet and what came out to. And if you hunt in thick bush and so on, it is very nice to see the color of the blood, the hair, and so on, and follow. I always do that. I love it. I learned it in Africa from some bushmen and try to do the same way they do.
So I don't know if I ever told you this while we were hunting, but back in the day when I was an up-and-comer, we used to have to physically go to a class for hunter's education and bow hunter's education.
Yeah.
And in the bow hunter's education class back then, they made a mock blood trail.
Yeah.
And they could be as tricky as they wanted to be, and we had to follow it. They would double back and do zigzags and all these things, and they'd lose it for a while, and you had to circle around and find it again. It was
exactly, yeah.
So that started my love of blood trailing.
Yeah. That's what that we actually do with dog in Denmark. We have a system of a register of maybe 200 dogs or something that you can call if you have wounded, and they are spread all over Denmark. So you can call the man who owns the dog, and he come with the dog and follow, and he have to do the same with his dog. But it can be 1 kilometer, as a 1,000 or more meter, I think, and 24 hours old, and the dog have to follow the track to be. There's some special rules. I don't know exactly, but they have to be very good. So it's always nice.
Yeah. They do that in Iowa and Wisconsin. I think there's there's like associations of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very cool. But your buck, just your typical 4x4 American stag almost, you'd call it.
Just a beautiful looking, healthy 4x4 buck. There's nothing more.
Neck almost as big as his body. You know?
Yeah, well, this time of year they have that.
Yeah, I was surprised over the size of the body.
Yeah.
As when you come up to it. It's when you see it on a distant 100 meter or 200 meter, it looks, okay, but when you come up to it, it looks really big. It's a big body.
Yeah, corn fed.
Yeah, really. Yeah. They look like they don't need more. What you say? They have food enough.
Yeah,
plenty around here.
Yeah, well, the farmers that grow the crops would probably agree. They don't need any more food. They're getting plenty.
Yeah.
And that blood trailing deal, that is neat to think about that, to trail it backwards, because we typically are looking for them. But it's a perishable skill, just like many other skills. And if you don't stay sharp on it and keep it top of mind, it can quickly go to the wayside. And not every hunt goes as easy as there he is right there.
Nope.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And so Jens, your buck was the last one killed in camp. We raced to get to the prime rib dinner, and that really concluded our rifle season. That was on Saturday night. We had Sunday to hunt if we were unsuccessful. But that was, like I said, just a great trip, and then it allowed us plenty of time to get back here into Grand Island, which is a couple hours away. Preston could prepare your skulls and antlers, and then you got to go see the Hornady manufacturing facility and see how we do things and what we're doing, and you get to see some of the people that are doing the stuff. So if you wouldn't mind, share each of your perspective on Hornady as a company, and maybe if that aligned with what you previously thought of us. Once you get to see behind the curtain and you see the engineering staff and you meet some of the people, what was your thoughts on the tour of our facility?
we meet some very engaged people in the factory, I think. And wherever you come in that factory, you can have a talk about hunting or shooting with all the staff.
Yep.
And then to see all the hard work that is done first in the engineering, and you go through the big, how technical it is to make that bullet.
Sure.
It seems so easy, I would say. It looks easy, but it is hard. It's not what you see. It's all the time behind the development. And
when you stand in front of a bullet press that's running, it's a sewing machine.
Yeah.
And if it's out of time a little bit, it's going to be a big problem.
Yeah.
And it looks simple when it's just going up and down, but like you mentioned, there is a lot that goes into getting it to go up and down.
Yeah. So I think it was a great experience to come around and see how you do everything yourself here. And
a very flat organization, everybody is like you. There's no, go to the first floor if you want to speak to the director. Everybody is next to each other,
and talk to everybody.
Everybody can talk to each other and say hello and doing. It's very, very nice, and I like that a lot of you or all of you are hunters or shooters. That is that's amazing to see in this industry, and you feel that when you come. You have trophy on the wall. You are proud of your company. You are proud of trophy hunting. You're proud of all kind of hunting, and I think that's a thing in other companies in Europe. They're a little bit afraid of trophy or something that. If you use the name trophy, no, we only hunt for meat. So that's very nice to see that you have all the aspects and don't keep something away. Or
and then in the end, when we come to the hall with all the people sitting on the line with all the cartridges, and they just take 10 at the time and look.
Oh, the inspection?
In their hand, inspection. Every bullet or every cartridge is inspected personally. That I had not expected that, but
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And to your point, Jens, like that's something Jason and Steve want, and that's what they want to set up. They want everybody to be able to talk to everybody. They do want a flat company. They're just some of the people like we are, and we're all passionate users, and that's why we make the products that we do. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've harped on it a million times on this podcast, but that is what drives our company, is that we are users.
Yeah.
Their personality goes all the way through the company, all the way out to the machines and people in the company. You can feel it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's
100%.
You can come in a company and where there's a big difference between, and they didn't even know who is the director of the company. So they're just standing with a machine. It's not the way here.
No.
Well, and to speak of your trophy and only hunting for meat. Well, and you can say harvest, but let's put it like it is. A kill is a kill. And in my opinion alone here, nobody else's, maybe somebody else's, but a kill has 3 trophies. The trophy itself, the meat, and then the experience.
Exactly.
And all 3 of them are A-okay to want.
Yes. And the trophy, keep the experience on your wall.
Exactly.
For me.
You remember the experience.
I remember that deer.
You look at
for
that
the rest
deer
of
and then you remember
rest of my life. Yes.
Yep.
That is a great way to put it.
Darn it. It feels good.
It does feel good. And when it's something that we've taken for granted our whole lives, hunting whitetail deer on the river, something as quote unquote simple as that, there's all 3 aspects of trophy in there. And whether you're in Steve Hornady's office like we were this morning, or you're out on our bullet presses or down in our ballistics lab and there's people testing bullets for accuracy, doesn't matter where you're at in the company, everybody's excited about what we're doing here, and that is, I think it's clearly transparent, as clearly transparent as that would be.
Yeah.
But it really is.
I won't even edit that one out.
You don't have to. But I mean it though, that you got gentlemen that come here from Denmark and have never been inside our 4 walls, and as soon as they get in here and they start to meet these people, you can see it, you can feel it, and it's a tangible feeling, and that's just plain cool. Yep. And a lot of that, like Thomas mentioned here a few minutes ago, we hand inspect our ammunition, and I think that is it's pretty symbolic of we're passionate users. We want you to use our product, and when you open it up, we want you to go, oh yeah, that's the Hornady ammo, and you can tell because human eyes laid eyes on this product, and went, okay, this one looked perfect. That one goes in the box. And if there's an imperfection, we pull it out. And we could save money and time by not doing that. And, there's probably people that wish we would, but that's not what we're about. That quality, that dependability of knowing this thing is perfect, that's something we want to hang our hat on.
Yeah.
It's heartwarming. I don't mean to be sappy, but what you said there, it's heartwarming to hear that people from around the country can come here and instantly see that.
I'm not speaking, I don't want to speak for you, put words in your mouth, but.
Also, that thing that you can call, if you have a question, you have that 10 people working there taking the phone, and if you have problem with what caliber do you recommend for this, or if you're reloading, and you can call the company and you give them advice, and that is also fantastic. More and more, I think in big companies, you can wait half an hour and maybe get a computer that send you to one voice to another voice, but here. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Service. That is really, really nice. We felt that immediately when we came to the airport. In Omaha, the service was so nice compared to what we used.
They had to tell us it was delayed. They had to tell us the luggage was gone, and still the American way. I hope it's like that all the way in America, because it was just good. We couldn't get mad on these guys because they did a service with a smile. They told us you will come 6 hours, 5 hours later, and they smiled,
which wasn't true.
But they felt good about it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that's.
So it's also about.
Yeah,
Hornady is also a kind of American symbol, somehow. You could say.
That makes me feel pretty good.
It's good to hear.
Yeah.
That is, because again, we're just small family-owned company here out on the prairie, and to know that we're having a global impact on people's. We talked about this earlier in my office. Largely, Hornady is fun, and that's what Jason and Steve like to remind people or remind our employees. We're fun. Shooting is fun. Hunting is fun. Now, we make defense ammo and law enforcement ammo, and we have some military stuff, and that's serious, and we take it very seriously. But largely, we're selling fun, and we want you to have fun, and we're going to have fun while we're making it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys. Obviously, I appreciate you guys coming from Denmark to hang out with us, to see our facility, to hunt with us, and I'm glad Preston and I could help you get on your Nebraska whitetail bucks, because that was great to be a part of.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your hospitality and good spirit and a little bit of sarcasm.
Yeah, maybe a lot of it.
Preston, is there anything you want to get captured while we're recording?
Well, I just want to thank these guys for coming across the globe to come see us, come shoot a beautiful Nebraska whitetail and see what we're all about.
The pleasure is ours.
Yeah, it has been a great experience. Thank you.
Well, we wish you safe travels back. Hopefully your luggage follows you back better than it followed you here.
Yeah, well, we got phone confirmation. Their luggage will be waiting for them at the airport, which is really convenient.
Hopefully it flies with the plane.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, everybody out there in podcast land, thanks for listening in on this one. We hope you enjoyed this recap of some international hunters coming to Nebraska, coming here to the Midwest to hunt whitetail deer on the Great Plains. We certainly had a good time with them, and we will catch you guys on the next one.